Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. It's a beautiful day. It's Valentine's Day, and it's another day where we're going to give you the scoop on what's happening in tokenization and real-world assets. I've got my host, my co-host, Kyle Sonlin. How are you? I'm Herwig. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. Kyle, most importantly, how are you doing?
Herwig, it is a great day to be alive. Happy to be here. Loving the new set, by the way. Shout out to the STM offices there in Miami. And I think it's going to be a great show on deck today, Herwig. I like everything we've got here in the market movements and, of course, everything that follows alongside the rest of the show and in the token debriefs. I just am ready to dive in. I can't wait to kick it off.
Let's do it. That means time for the market movements. Now, if you're dying to get the latest and greatest news, well, then get ready. But first, please give us a like, give us a subscribe if you haven't. Share this episode with somebody that you know that would enjoy it, or better yet, on social media. Thank you very much. It would be much appreciated. But now, Kyle, man, got some pretty big news to drop here. Toyota, biggest car company in the world, or at least by, I think, by amount of cars, they are officially doing another, tokenization issuance, this time a retail bond on MUFG's Progmat, okay? So this means that literally retail, it's actually focused in Japan, you'll be able to tap in and be able to sort of get exposure to this bond from Toyota via their Toyota wallet, which also comes with perks, a 1% bonus, I think cash back, the way they described it. I'm not sure. You can learn the details about the program. But Kyle, I just want to highlight how cool this is, that we see a major car company reaching their local, audience to say, hey, come buy our bond. This isn't a corporate institutional bond. This is a retail bond. And so they went ahead and linked a perk to it as well. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, no, I think this is pretty cool. It seems like their main goal is to try to get everyone to download this Toyota wallet. And presumably this has other features. It says in the article that we have that the wallet gives all kinds of tips for how to take care of your car, as well as the app or with this wallet allows you to apply for car loans and smartphone payments, car navigation, all types of reservation style things. So they're kind of offering this suite of services. But to your point, alongside this app is going to be this digital bond. So they did issue what is going to be up to $6 million in USD, a bond issued by Toyota. This is on the Progmat platform with MUFG, with Daiwa Securities as the underwriter. And they have a few little perks here, Herwig, but I think mostly it's just cash back. So they're offering like a 1% cash back style program on this initial test product. So definitely a huge name in the industry. One of the more early or some of the first use cases of a corporate style of digital bond. Most of them we've seen thus far have been institutional style of banking products. This one is definitely targeted to the retail customer.
I think we're going to see more of that. And I think we've seen, Kyle, that Asia is really ahead of the game because there's another retail product coming out there offering it out of Singapore using the Libera platform. This is China AMC, one of the biggest, I think $360 billion, according to the article on Ledger Insights there. Asset managers partner up with Standard Chartered, Stan Chart to offer a money market fund, which, we like to call yield coins aptly, opposed to stable coins, right? Providing you a little bit of yield, but very close, money market fund opportunity. And this is also retail once again, which I think is something significant because most, not all, but most of these products we've seen to date are typically still targeting institutions or at least sort of entities and those types of applications. So it's nice to see this focus around retail. What did you think about this one, Kyle?
The cool thing I thought about this one was that they actually really prioritized interoperability between the traditional financial vehicle and the digital financial vehicle. And, I do think that this is probably, at least in the near term, probably the smart way to approach an issuance like this, because it does drastically reduce the downside risk of something going wrong here. Is that at the end of the day, there is a traditional component here that backs a lot of the value to the actual asset itself. And so that arbitrage does potentially create some trading activity, as we've seen with different assets, but it also, I think, adds, more or less a peg in the traditional market to the digital asset in the event that that something goes wrong.
Over the next 5 years, we have yield coins growing at the same pace, or if not faster, by the end of the decade than stable coins. So this is a trend I think we're going to continue to see, especially on that retail angle.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Herwig, I'm going to keep it going here with R3's Corda. So one of the longest running tokenization engines in this industry. Wanted to shout them out because in their newest article, or their newest feature here on Global Newswire, so I guess they put this press release out, they have now reached over $10 billion worth of on-chain assets on their Corda blockchain. So R3 is the company, and Corda is their distributed ledger blockchain technology. And they're now saying over $10 billion worth of assets on chain. Herwig, this comes within a year of them kind of suggesting that, or at least there being some press and maybe some smoke around them potentially looking to sell the business. Now it seems like maybe they are, despite that, still pushing forward and driving really interesting adoption, and certainly have brought a lot of interesting assets on chain. The other interesting thing that they mentioned was 1 million transactions processed per day on the Corda blockchain. So what are your thoughts around this? I think that some people may see this as a really amazing thing. Some people may question like what these actual assets are, or what these actual transactions are. Where do you fall kind of on that spectrum?
First of all, congrats to R3 for the success on Corda, because that's definitely a big number. The only other ones I can think of are sort of Providence up in that area. But this is also where a lot of people start to bring up the challenge of like, okay, well, these assets are on a private or on a permission DLT platform in this case. Versus a public Ethereum type chain, which, by the way, the previous fund we just talked about on Libera, right, by Stanchart and China AMC is also on Ethereum, for example. We saw BIDL go on Ethereum. We see many of these products go multi-chain on public chains. So there's an argument about sort of in finance and in crypto and just in RWAs in general about what's the best use case and the best application. I'm personally a big believer in just like everything is, especially in finance, crawl, walk, run. And some of us are going to be faster than others, but many will need to crawl and leverage these platforms. Some of it could be regulatory constrictions and restrictions that prevent that from happening today. Others prefer it this way or want the control. I think we're going to see it both play out, whether people like it or not, and whether you want to admit it or not, Kyle. We're talking about literally tens of billions of dollars that are on a blockchain solution, right? Whether you can tap into it or see it on a public chain via Block Explorer, great. But there are still many applications that can be built around that we're talking about, right? The instant trading and settlement, the collateralization, the even potential for DeFi and other things. All of it can eventually be unlocked. But it is interesting to be able to argue that it's like, it's sort of, you can't look much into it. So you kind of have hesitation about what is that 10 billion that's on R3 Corda, right? You want to kind of know. So I totally get it, but this is how finance goes. And so, yeah, that's my take, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I look, regardless of how you feel about it, 10 billion is an enormous number, and R3 has been a stalwart in the tokenization industry for quite some time. So major shout out to their team. We've covered them probably at this point over a dozen times, if not dozens of times over the years, because of the institutional adoption they've brought to market. I think that should be commended, that they're still firing away and breaking such a huge milestone. I think the 1 million transactions a day, Herwig, for me, is actually more impressive than the 10 billion in net assets, because as we've talked about, you can bring assets on chain, but the transactions and moving money from one place to another shows that there's real activity here, and shows that these aren't just kind of like quote unquote fake tokenizations where we've seen in the past that something gets tokenized, but if nobody wants to buy it, then who really matters. So major shout out to R3 and yeah.
It's a totally fair point, Kyle. I mean, 1 million a day might be the most active RWA protocol in the industry just by activity, if that's truly the case. I don't know. Again, I would love to know what the use case is that's driving a lot of that million. But sure. If that's the case, Kyle, right, that's a significant number outside, repo transactions, which we know are now in the trillions with the success of Broadridge and JP Morgan, which, by the way, what are they on? Private, permissioned, or distributed ledger. So, that's just how this goes for scale sometimes as well. But, it's worth pointing out, Kyle, we've been talking about this trend now a little bit. Let's shift back over here in the United States. We got Franklin Templeton's sort of equivalent money market fund product that is also retail, by the way, which is why I love that product. BENJI, right? The BENJI token, which is actually the FOB XX fund. And it's now on Solana, Kyle. So big moves for Solana. They're making a lot of week by week, new partnerships and integrations and support, which really goes to show you that, I saw Nick Dukoff, actually, I think it was on CNBC or some major outlet, basically saying that, this is where Solana is about institutional adoption too, and tokenization in general. So it's nice to see this, especially because Solana also got selected by Taurus, which we know is a little bit more institutional as well. They partnered up with State Street, or State Street selected them for their tokenization and probably custody solution. And it looks like now we're going to see Solana be included in that suite by Taurus. So probably means that either they had a client asking for it, or they believe themselves that people are going to want to use this Solana tokenization and custody solution support with Taurus. So, I think this is a really big statement. What about you, Kyle? How do you feel about Solana in general and these two announcements?
Yeah, I like this move. It seems like Solana continues to drive adoption and continues to scale. And yet I still haven't felt like I've personally seen enough institutional activity moving to Solana. There's a ton of liquidity. There's a ton of development support. And yet haven't seen a ton of real world asset tokenization taking place. And so I think this is really important for the future of that blockchain, and would love to see how it works. I think that Solana does seem to have more outages than we've seen from other, EVM style chains and things like that. We also have, the elephant in the room, as we've talked about over the last year or so, Coinbase's blockchain built on the Ethereum network. So I want to see how these blockchain solutions compete directly, and if there is a real benefit or cost to using one chain versus another, or if it really is just kind of pick your poison and the underlying asset financial vehicle matters way more and whatever. So it'll be cool to see how that plays out over time. But Solana definitely seems like a really liquid platform right now.
We saw Libre go early on the scene, to try to make some moves with Solana. I believe they were the first to bring some institutional funds, but worth shouting out that they have, a lot of like platforms like MetaWealth, Agridex, Etherfuse, all RWA Foundation partners, by the way, that are all building on Solana as well, but more retail focused. So, it'll be interesting to see how the Solana RWA ecosystem develops from both ends, retail and institutional, given their focus on both. That's cool news, Kyle. And we've also heard from Plume, a lot of big news. They are now multi-chain for Superstate, and they're apparently bringing $40 million worth of RWAs from Mercado Bitcoin to Plume. So, knowing that Superstate products are now available to Plume users, and it seems like they're also doing some interoperability there. So maybe answer your question, Kyle, about what are the benefits to going multi-chain. Maybe Plume will have a good answer, and maybe Superstate could be a good case study. But also cool to see that Brazil's, and I think Latin America's biggest crypto exchange, is getting into the RWA game. I think we've talked about this in the past a little bit, but it's worth stating again, like this is a big deal. We love to see these large crypto companies move into RWAs. We expect Coinbase and Kraken and Gemini and all of them to do the same thing here in the US, and to see the biggest one in Latin America and Brazil starting to do it is just, again, validation that we know this is coming. So any thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, it wouldn't be an episode of the Security Token Show, it feels like, if we didn't cover Plume updates of new integrations and partnerships. And it also wouldn't be a Security Token Show episode if we didn't cover Ondo and what's going on with them. Major shout out to both of these teams. I mean that in the most respectful way, because they are crushing it. Both of these teams are just continuing to drive significant business development and integrations. And Ondo, on the other side, Herwig, has announced a partnership with World Liberty Fi, which is Donald Trump and the Trump team's tokenization company. This is, I think they're doing a lot of collateralization with crypto. But on top of that, it does seem like they've been making strategic investments and allocations into different cryptos. I've seen them buy Ethereum here or rebalance with this or that. And more recently, we've seen them actually announce a partnership with Ondo Finance, in which they purchased a lot of Ondo tokens inside of their treasury as they explore tokenization of these types of assets, maybe using Ondo's treasury products as a backing for some of the things that they're working on, perhaps diving even deeper with the new blockchain solution that Ondo has recently announced that we covered on last week's show. So this is another interesting partnership that we see from one of the largest and loudest companies in the tokenization space. I mean, between Plume and Ondo, Herwig, it seems like we've got enough news just to do an entire episode on everything that they've been doing.
Yeah, no, I love to see their consistent efforts of expansion, and big one for Ondo. We know that they also sponsored the crypto ball during the inauguration, so they're clearly close to that team. And World Liberty Financial, I actually got to hear them speak. Donald Trump Jr. came to speak at the Ondo Summit, which I had the pleasure of being at last week. So we got to hear a little bit directly from, I think that live stream's available publicly. You can go check it out. Their team talks a little bit about how WLFI is going to be the platform and the bridge between really retail and Web 2 into crypto and tapping into DeFi in a more seamless and easier way, which we know UX and education and all that is a big problem. But beyond that, everybody just kind of has their eyes on their wallet to see what they're buying. That definitely seems to be their role today, as much as that. So I'm excited to see a great player like Ondo be partnered up with them and start to bring in the RWA play right front center, because we also definitely know that the whole Trump family, obviously coming from their real estate backing, is going to get super excited about real estate tokenization and the tokenization of finance in general. They already clearly are. So very, very excited about this partnership officially coming to life after witnessing all that last week, Kyle. Any closing thoughts?
A great market movement section here, Herwig. I mean, we've got some of the traditional players, whether it's Plume and Ondo, whether it's R3 getting involved. You've got institutions like Franklin Templeton getting involved and continuing to expand. And then you've got new consumer players like Toyota and China AMC doing stuff in tokenization. I mean, we really covered the map from every different market segment. So that's really, really exciting.
You know what this looks like, Kyle? A healthy tokenization industry, a market alive and well. We look forward to covering it every week. And we've got even more news for you. So don't go anywhere. A quick RWA Foundation update, and then more with a token debrief. Get some finishing industry news here, Kyle. So don't go anywhere, everybody. Let's move on with the show. What's up, everybody? This week has been a awesome week. I have got to see my eyes on an amazing launch trailer that's going to be coming your way soon, everybody. So it's going to reveal a lot of our culture and a lot of ideas that we're bringing to life here with the RWA Foundation. If you're listening to this for the first time, this is STM's crypto initiative, our organization to help out the industry in terms of focusing on crypto natives and helping bridge RWAs and DeFi. And our very first initiative, the Wally DAO, Whitepaper has been released. You can go check that out. We've got a lot of cool things planned, including grant programs for the industry, a lot of partnerships and perks for our DAO members, potential to support the industry through policy and through resources and education. We got WallyCon that'll be at the end of the year. So if you want to go check all that out at RWAF.xyz, you can learn more. Stay tuned. We got more partnership announcements and more news about the Wally TGE coming soon. So stay tuned. Right now, we're just hard at work. I wish I could share more, and soon we will be. So always open to feedback. We really are co-creating our community here. Please be loud on Twitter, X if you want. We definitely want to hear you, and come join our Telegram community. We're having a lot of fun, a lot of really great conversations around RWA platforms, around tokens, around the future of finance. So let's get into it. But now back to the show with the Token Debrief. All right, we've got to rattle down a little bit more news happening this week because, wow, what a week it's been. Starting off with some real estate news with Vesta Equity, who tapped Prov Labs, okay, to tokenize home equity. We're not talking HELOCs like Figure. We're talking home equity, a whole new innovation that Vesta Equity has come up with to essentially allow you to do fractional sales of your property. A new way to tap into your equity, if you will, which is an awesome use case of tokenization. So we'll be keeping an eye on the success of the adoption here of Vesta Equity's new model, which is now going to be powered, of course, by the Provenance blockchain. And moving on, we got ABN AMRO, one of the biggest banking giants out of the Netherlands. They announced a successful proof of concept, trying out some trades, clearing some trades on 21X, one of the newly European licensed platforms. So it's great to already see some activity, a good sign that institutional activity is coming to 21X's new platform here. And moving over into the States, the CFTC actually announced some pretty big news that I think I actually got to hear a little bit about it from the acting commissioner, Caroline Pham, last week at Ondo Summit. But they talked about how there's actually going to be a pilot for tokenized collateral, okay, that they're testing this out, which is a big deal, of course, for the futures and commodities markets and everything else that the CFTC covers. So very big deal. They're inviting to work with the industry to be able to test this out. This just goes to show you how the new administration in the US, across the board, across the agencies, they're all endorsing tokenization and moving a foot forward in the right direction here and embracing this technology, right? The right direction. Particular well-respected data analytics platform on RWAs that has a ton of incredible research and ratings announced that they're actually going to release some evaluations of the DSC and DGC tokens. This is a silver and gold tokens from Denario. So the evaluations will have the overview, the assessment, company developments, key strengths and challenges, and the analysis of their market counterparts. So I'm really excited to dig into this one. Particular has done some incredible research on the past on some yield coin products and given some ratings to some of them individually. Moving on, Silver Scott Mines, which is actually a pink sheet company, OTC Markets, actually announced that they're getting into the tokenization game with their own private blockchain solution. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of adoption they get around real estate, commodities, and mining. They say in their release will be the focus. Midas also announced an on-chain hedge fund backed by different DeFi strategies from RE7 Capital, Edge Capital, and MEV Capital. So that'll be interesting. We're now starting to see more and more yield tokens go down the risk curve, if you will. An on-chain hedge fund, I love the concept. And tapping in the DeFi is very interesting form of yield mixed with RWAs, I got to say. Probably going to see many more of those as well. BitGet Wallet is also now on the Mantra mainnet support. So cross-chain transaction staking and rewards, all supported by the BitGet Wallet for Mantra tokens, which is really great to hear. We know they've got a lot of awesome projects in the pipeline that they've announced. And not to end here with two more here, we got Union also entering the game. So Union FinTech has a new L1 that they're presenting with ZK Sync technology. They've got a focus around Asia, and it's currently in the testnet phase. So they're expecting to see a lot of different licensed firms, they say, adopt their chain here, at least out over in the Far East. And then finally, QDVI launches a real estate tokenization platform specifically focusing on luxury properties. So I love the sound of that, to see some of those hit the market in tokenized fashion. So if you're interested in tokenized real estate, QDVI is now in the game, folks. And that's all we've got for you this week. But now we've got to pick who Kyle and I thought won Companies of the Week.
Well, Herwig, on this Valentine's Day, we are announcing two things that we love. And that is our two companies of the week. These are the two companies that we want to give a shout out for making the biggest moves in the industry. Now, when I say biggest, it could mean the most impactful. It could mean a particular company that's bringing the most eyeballs or awareness or adoption into the industry. It could be the most profitable company creating opportunities in the market. There's all different means of interpretation with respect to this award. But really what it is you and I, Herwig, providing a spotlight on a particular company or innovation or initiative that deserves respect and kind of acts as a natural bookmark of like, what did we think was the biggest thing of the week? And of course, not only is it just simply a bookmark, it is purely a chapter in the fabric, in the history of tokenization, with which one of these chapters each year is the ultimate winner of the Company of the Year award. The biggest, most impactful, wonderful business in the entire tokenization industry. This is now 5+ years running, Herwig. And I'm already fired up talking about it. I always like doing these intros because it is just so exciting to give these awards out. Without further ado, I'd love for you to kick us off and walk us through what you had to do.
Ooh, memorialized, commemorized, etched into eternity. I'm going to give my company of the week to none other than R3, Kyle. It was a tough one this week, but man, R3 hitting us with those stats, 10 billion in RWAs, but not just crossing that threshold, but 1 million in transaction volume a day. This is most interesting to me. I'm going to definitely make it a mission to find out more about what's going on here, because could be the most exciting news so far, Kyle. I mean, this is the type of activity that is the light to the fuse of the future of finance. We're going to see those numbers just get zeros added on to both of them. 100 billion, a trillion, hundreds of millions, of billions in trading volume. It is coming, folks, and it's going to come faster than you think. That's why we did predict 30 trillion by the end of the decade here, Kyle. But R3 may very well be powering many, many billions or even trillions of that with what they're seeking to do because of their institutional focus. So because of their success there, I definitely wanted to highlight that, and I'm proud of that. Congratulations, R3. You're my company of the week.
Hurry, that's a great winner. R3 has been such a faithful servant to this industry, has just been driving adoption throughout the many, many years, and has really was the first company that I think of when I think of institutional banking adoption in this tokenization industry. They really took a lot of arrows for so many other companies to thrive, and it's great to see them still succeeding.
Yeah, Kyle, you got one yourself, so I'm dying to hear. Talk to me.
I do. Mine is on kind of a different side of the spectrum. Still huge company, institutional adoption likely comes from this initiative, but mine is Toyota. We need more large-scale consumer brands that everyone's familiar with that are working on tokenization initiatives. Not only is this going to present a real opportunity to onboard new users, it also brings an entire level of legitimacy into this industry. And also, as an owner of a Scion, I am in part of the Toyota family, so maybe I am just a little bit biased here on my choice. But there's also a little bit of a hot take here, Herwig, that I want to throw at you.
Oh, yeah.
And that is, when they talk about leadership, it's kind of being the tip of the spear, right? It's bringing others to follow alongside. And maybe when you first do something, it seems weird, it seems crazy, but maybe that draws in others to feel and do the same initiative. And so if we pose a very silly hypothetical for a second to think about what other car manufacturer is very tech focused, likes to do really interesting things with, with their vehicles, with their initiatives. They also always seem to need a lot more capital than what they have. And they also are very connected tangentially to many blockchain initiatives, whether it's within the government, whether it's within other companies and their administration. Maybe this is the type of tide that could convince a Tesla or something like that to get into tokenization, launching some sort of tokenized bond. Now that Toyota's done it, if they can do that successfully, does that suggest to other firms and other EV companies and a lot of the automotive industry, which is an incredibly capital intensive industry, can we see or could we see this be the initial tidal wave into some of these other companies in the industry looking for alternative sources of funding? And so if that's the case, and if that does inevitably happen, you heard it here first. We're giving the credit to Toyota for actually being the ones that drive this forward and normalize this opportunity for other manufacturers.
Elon Musk, if this somehow makes your way, you heard it here, man. Let's do a Tesla bond on chain or something. But with that, Kyle, cool. That's our show. Great companies of the week. Amazing stuff for all around for the industry. I am just loving this. I am pumped for what's coming. 30 trillion by the end of the decade. Who knows by the end of the year? I think almost $1 trillion or more. So, wow. Soon, some big announcements, Kyle, that we're going to share about Tokenize This. So get on the edge of your seat for that one, folks, because it's going to be awesome as well. And any closing thoughts on your end, Kyle? Any updates from Global Settlement Network worth sharing?
Things are going really, really well from the global settlement side. If you are a commodities tokenizer, definitely come our way. We have our main focus right now is on private credit, actually, in the trade finance sector. We have seen a ton of demand from issuers that need capital through debt instruments so that we can provide yield on stable coins and on crypto, but through sustainable methods in the debt markets. So that's really where we've been focused. So if you're a commodities issuer, if you have a stable coin, or if you're looking to issue stable coin technologies, hit me up and would love to work together. We will have some great fundraising announcements coming soon, hopefully. We're also going to have some really cool new products that we're launching live. Nothing that I can officially confirm here on the show other than things are moving, and it's been a really fun opportunity to work with some of the vendors that have been longtime listeners of the show and helping them out in driving liquidity into their assets. That's been really, really fun. And of course, you'll see me at the Tokenize This conference as well.
That's the show, everybody. Like, subscribe, give us a comment, feedback, and of course, go visit us at stm.co for all your latest trading information on RWAs. Over 60 billion, folks, that we are tracking in the market that is on chain. Wow, wow, wow. And have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day and happy tokenizing.